You've landed at Spark Launch, the guide star for embracing what it means to be neurodiverse. I'm Mike Cornell, joined by CEO of Spark Launch, Chaya. Here, we navigate mental health triumphs and tribulations from all across the spectrum, charting a course through the shared experiences that unite us, and discovering how to embody the unique strengths within neurodivergent and neurotypical alike, igniting your spark and launching it into a better tomorrow. Hello there, I'm Mike.
I'm Chaya.
And I am thrilled to introduce our guest for today, Kristin Walker, the founder of Mental Health News Radio Network, which features dozens of shows covering everything from clinical approaches to personal developments and innovative healing modalities. A sought-after speaker and consultant for healthcare systems, she has a special commitment to elevating the diverse voices in the mental health space. Welcome to the show, Kristin.
Thanks for having me. That's a good bio. You must have edited it. I like it. I like it better. I want that.
So welcome to the show, Kristin. It's such an honor to have you. I'm so curious about your journey and what got you here and why mental health is so important for you, that you have this network of shows and you're promoting mental health, which I and Mike both are passionate about it. So I want to hear about your why.
Gotcha. My why. Well, I had a very rocky start in life with a lot of trauma, generational trauma, and a lot of sexual abuse and, all those lovely things that set you on a really good collision course with depression. And I also didn't know that I was autistic and had ADHD until 2024. So I'm going through the mind map that one goes through where you reevaluate your entire life through this new lens, which is awesome. I say that because that also fed, I know it did, my interest in all things to do with psychology, because I was trying to figure out what is wrong with me? Why? I know I have trauma. I get it. I've had tons of therapy. I've been to shamans. I've been to psychiatrists. I've done all the things. And why do I still just not really get what other people seem to get? Why do I always feel like I'm running down this long hallway? Remember the movie Poltergeist, where she's running down the hallway to get to, this is old school, the original Poltergeist. I don't know if there was a remake, but anyway, that's what I felt like my life was, just running down a hallway, trying to get to all the doors that other people seem to be able to open just without breaking a sweat. Or even if they break a sweat, it's like, I did it. And I just couldn't get there. The hallway kept getting longer and longer and longer. And so I just always wanted to study mental health because, that's where I was having the issue, in my head. And that led me to doing podcasting at the time when people were laughing at podcasting. This was 14 years ago, I guess. People were like, what a joke. Sure, little podcaster or whatever that is, come to our big conference and we'll let you interview all these super rock stars in mental health because we don't really know what you're doing. And so that was fantastic because I got to cut my teeth on people like Dr. Gabor Mate and, many, many, many people. But in terms of starting the network, it was really just pressure from other people that were guests, that were regulars, that said, hey, we want our own shows. Will you help us produce them? And I said no forever because that sounded like a heck of a lot of work. And there was no one for me to call and say, how do you set up a mental health network for podcasting? People just sort of looked at it like my weird hobby. And surprisingly, people just joined and joined and joined and joined, and it's morphed and changed, as people know how to create their own podcasts. But the point of it is, when I started, you could not go to, say, a coffee shop or a nail salon or a barber shop or wherever and just say, hey, I have anxiety, without crickets and people looking around like, ooh, things just got real uncomfortable. And what I've watched happen over the course of being involved in the mental health field, and maybe we played like a small part in that, is that you can walk in anywhere and say, I have anxiety, and everybody runs over and goes, yeah, me too. Oh, yeah, how do you deal with it? Blah, blah, blah. That was the point of the network. We've done our job, our small part of that.
You brought about a point in your First of all, I want to say sorry for all the hardship that you endured in your childhood and your early years that resulted in mental health. But I want to understand, what is the connection between the neurodivergent mind and mental health issues, that special connection that you saw in your life? Because mental health is important for everybody, right? Whether neurodivergent and not. But there's there's a pattern that I see that is common amongst neurodivergent and the mental health problems that they experience. So what have you noticed, and what is your take on that?
My take on it is very pro neurodivergent. And I've even been accused a couple of times of not being neurotypical friendly, which is completely not true. It's just when you embark on this journey, you find this out about yourself. You go through stages, and one of those stages is really being angry at how you've been treated as someone who's different, and mostly by people that are not neurodivergent. So I definitely went through that stage, and I'm okay with that. I am so okay with my life being out there in the way that it is, because it seems to help some people. And even if it's just like this many people, I'm okay with that. But in terms of why, I think it's because my experience of neurodivergence is that I am so sensitive, so profoundly sensitive. I need my world to be quiet. I need it to be peaceful. All these things that I need in order to function at my best are actually things that would help everyone, neurodivergent or not, right? That's how I see it. It's just that that's not how the world has been set up so far. I believe we are going in that direction. But so it just makes it so that you already don't feel like you fit in. Nothing is set up to help you know what's up with you. If you go into the rabbit hole of getting diagnosed, if I had done that in the past, I probably wouldn't have gotten diagnosed. And the help that was available was based on old systems and structures around what autism is and what ADHD is. And so it would not have been helpful. So I guess what I'm saying is, when you are neurodivergent, it feels like the world is stacked up against you, not for you. And you have to excavate yourself and the world in order to get to a place of peace about it so that you can actually function well. And you have to be like, I call it ninja self-care, which is also not necessarily supported, but we're getting there. So I don't know if that's my loosey-goosey answer to your question, Chaya.
It's a wonderful ninja. Yes, you have to figure it out yourself, right? Use your non-linear thinking to get out of that system that is forcing you to be someone who you're not. And
Yes.
and that's where all the mental health issues come from, when someone is not allowing you to be yourself. But instead of taking the victim mode, just take ownership for your own growth, and you can get out of that place of being stuck and helpless.
I mean, my God, think about how strong we are. Because when I think about, like, I didn't have anywhere to go to ask for help with this particular thing because I was born in 1970. So there was nothing for me there, and I wouldn't have met criteria because I can be very social, although it's very exhausting, but I can put on a mask, like nobody's business. So yeah, it's interesting to traverse this. And it coincided with my own journey around being a victim, which I was, but how long I stayed in that victim energy, even though I was out and I was speaking and I was doing tours and talking about child abuse, I still was living in a victim mode. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. There is nothing, I'm telling you right now, zero wrong with that. It's just that at some point, you do want to get out of survival mode and be in thrive mode, which is what it seems like everyone else, not everybody, but a lot of people are able to do. And it's just harder for a neurodivergent person. So it seems to get to that because you are bullied. Predatory people love autistic people, especially those of us that don't know, they're just like, oh, yay, I can have fun winding this person around for hours. And that's glee for me. And they're in torment, So the world tells you, you're a victim, you're a victim, you're a victim. And still you rise and still you rise. And then you get to the point where I'm at, where I'm like, oh, I'm not a victim anymore. I can be in situations where I'm being victimized, but I do not internalize that to be my state of being anymore.
Yeah.
I'm me. I'm a freaking warrior. Okay. Yes. To get through as far as I have gotten, I'm a warrior. I know this about myself now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I can ninja my way away from narcissistic people like nobody's business. but now kindly, because I understand that from a soul perspective and all kinds of things that we can get into. But
yes,
it's fascinating. So anyway.
You can, I think once we get out, we can block it, right? We can block that negative energy that's coming your way. But when you don't know, you're just soaking it all in.
You're walking around an open receiver. Oh, every chakra is open. You're just wide open and you're like, boom, 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 with all the energy that's out there,
And there's no boundaries, right? Boundaries is a learned skill. Everybody has to learn something. And that's one of the things that I learned. I had zero boundaries, just putting myself out there. And of course, being sensitive, super sensitive, just getting affected and just interacting with the world, reacting for everything. But once you figure out that formula, that secret formula, it's not a secret, but nobody tells you that because they don't teach these things in school, and you have to figure it out yourself somehow, and then you don't have to be in that place.
You know what I think is awesome? I love how I spent like 7 years doing everything related to autism without having a clue about myself, and where I learned amazing boundaries, and why I think now I spent so much time going into classrooms, the special needs classroom with my therapy dog. I would go every week and I did so much of that. And now I realize, oh, I wanted to be there because I wanted that to be my classroom. Because you know what they're talking about with these kids? This is my area. These are my boundaries. And those are that was not part of my teaching experience, but I got to experience it as an adult while I'm there to help. And I was actually getting all the help for myself. It was informing me, oh, this is what this can be like. Got it.
So you were getting a lot of secondhand like healing from going through the motion, helping others, which I think is all too common, especially for neurodivergents who are late realized, who do a lot of things unconsciously and find themselves attracted to certain, I think, practices and methods that they don't quite know why we're drifting towards that, why we seem to resonate with it. I was definitely that way with a lot of things pre-realization and diagnosis. I would do so many like sensory accommodations for myself without even realizing. I didn't even know I was doing accommodations. I would just try to justify it in different ways for myself. You talked about going from sort of like you had your voice, but you still had the mindset of victimization, and you were able to move out of that. What practices yourself brought you to that mindset shift?
Oh my God. Multiple shamans, multiple therapists, multiple life experiences, reading. I mean, just all of those, like self-study. And I mean, you guys know what I'm saying here. Okay. So what normal person would create a whole network and a whole business model and not care about that part of it, really? I just wanted to question really smart people in mental health and have a all stage pass, to do that. And I've got, like 10,000 hours of doing that, being interviewing, mostly interviewing or having, conversations. What normal person puts that much study into those kinds of things? Well, it was for me to learn because I had to invent a way to learn things that I wasn't getting. And that is something that is so great about our brains, right? Okay, it's not here, it's not available. We'll just invent a way to help ourselves. It's freaking awesome that we do that. And I'm glad that I have this brain so that because while I didn't know things and I wasn't going to get the information, I still cared enough about myself to keep asking questions. And I love that. I love that.
Yeah, I think that's common amongst us, the curiosity brain, we are hunting for information. And when you look for that information, you're going to find it, right? Because it's there. And actually it's there inside of you. It's not outside of you. And that's what these shamans and therapists are all helping you go inwards, because you have the answer for everything. But the world is built in such a way that we are all externally focused, that nobody teaches us going inwards. And that's why I love meditation. I do the chakra meditation and all of that. But I wish schools taught this from day one, just a practice of going inside, sitting with your feelings, and it's all okay. And it's okay to be sensitive. It's okay to cry. All of that is perfectly fine, instead of these rules that they have.
Yeah, I notice with my brain, and I know this with interesting working with AI the way that I do. I notice I'm learning about how my brain works now, because I can pull it away from myself like a Rubik's cube and see it utilizing the functionality in AI and go, oh, I'm getting a full, 360-degree view of my brain, how it works within my body. And I've not been able to do that before. And so now that I also have information, knowledge is so much power. So now that I know these things about myself, I'd say the diagnosis was the final stage of me letting go, of being able to let go of the victim part of my life. And also to let it go with reverence, because I needed it for that long. And that's okay. It's okay. I just don't need that anymore. I have information. So now I can be empowered. And that's why it's so important for people to know these things and then get to the place where, okay, I'm not a label, I'm not a diagnosis, but I think you got to go through the stage of getting those things before you can get to the bigger, macro picture of what this is for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And except that there are various stages to it. It's not just going to be a straight line. You're probably going to double back on a couple stages and try to take it as much as you can, because there's no kind of right or wrong way to kind of go about finding yourself. You can take bits and bobs of a million different things and modalities and start to utilize them in new, beautiful ways that maybe the person you got the idea from had never considered using it for. And there are a lot of modalities that are considered maybe controversial, or that's not even right, polarizing to a degree. And going back to the network and what you created, how do you sort of approach those topics being talked about on various shows in a way that's, or is both like you're able to allow that level of freedom, but ensure there is maybe an ethical boundary that's in place?
Well, I have a lot of disclaimers because I can't be responsible for what everyone else says, and everyone else has their own opinions about things. So I'm not the content police, and I don't want to be. So I put in protections for myself and the network that, this is that person's opinion, all that legal stuff. But in terms of the vibe of it, it's more the vibe of it is just, I'm now at a place, I have let everybody in. Like I had to build the network, I let everybody in. And I made all those missteps. I don't want to call them mistakes because they're so golden, I don't want to put a negative connotation on all those things I learned and that are aired, things I've talked about on the air that now I would look at and go, what just came out your mouth? That is what you thought at that time. Thank God you've evolved a bit, Kristin. And that is still on the air. People are going to hear that and think that that's you today. You need to take that down. And I'm like, no, it's a journey. It's a journey. All for all of us. It's such a journey. One day, maybe when I'm 80, I'll go back and go, wow, okay, that's my journey. Interesting. And we'll have tools to go and grab all that and put it into a nice format for yourself using AI, which is amazing. But so, it's exciting to watch. I guess when you get out of victim stage, you have this room for compassion for yourself now, because you're not just what's coming at me, what sociopath is going to come around the corner and knock me for a loop, but just all that kind of stuff. When there's an absence of that kind of energy, it opens up the room for you to invite all this, this love in, and all this knowledge and all this peace about yourself. And then you can look at yourself with all this forgiveness and compassion. Oh yeah, that is what I thought when I was 22. Pretty shallow, but okay, I love myself anyway.
Yeah, we are constantly evolving. So it's totally okay that we were a certain type back then and we are like this now. At least we are growing, right? Which is a great sign. And I think just having an open mind helps us to grow, and just allowing information from different angles and perspectives, and that curious brain will help us evolve and eventually get out, and you're in a place where you're absolutely in love with yourself, and that is inner peace, and you're actually doing what you've come here to do on this planet. And yeah,
you're not, you can tell yourself a bit of a story, which I have done, of, oh, are you going to get really narcissistic now? Like you're going to just stare into the beauty of yourself and just fall in love. Like, you're looking in the pool of water and you're seeing only your reflection and you're just, no, it's not about that. It's really, really what self-love is actually about, which is so different than that shallow pool. It's so different. But I understand the knee-jerk reaction. You don't want to become that which has oppressed you, right? Very shallow, narcissistic people have been oppressors. They've been teachers, really, but they've felt like huge oppressors. And you don't want to become that which you have been, you have experienced bullying from. But that's, I think, the last sign that comes to you to try to keep you from really taking the leap into yourself. Like, you get all these fear road signs. Don't go there. Don't enter. No, because it's your ego or whatever it is trying to keep you safe. Don't dive into yourself that way. You'll do this. And the reality is, no. Do it. Just breeze past those road signs. Those are not red flags. Those are indicators that you need to keep excavating. And if you do that, what a great experience in life. It just takes on a whole different meaning. It doesn't mean that you don't still get depressed, that you don't still have burnout, that you don't have to watch your spoons, if you follow the spoon theory, but it does mean that I now can say instead of being a golden retriever that someone says, hey, Kristin, I want you to go do this. And I want you to spend your own money to do this thing for me, which I would have happily done for tons of people and have done, right? Now I go, there's this room, there's a space that's been created, right? Where I have discernment, and I go, I don't want to put my energy there. So I kindly say no. And I'm like, who just said that? Was that me? Oh yeah, that's me now. Yay. I can say no. How fantastic.
So much of self-love is viewed as very egotistical, but it's about being gentle with yourself and trusting yourself. So much of self-hate comes from learned behavior. I know in my own personal life, one of the reasons I have such a difficult time admitting I'm good at something or even volunteering myself for things that I know I would maybe excel at is from wanting to do the exact opposite of behavior that I have seen from someone in my life for a very long time. And I don't want to repeat that. So you go down, well, to be the opposite of that, I have to admonish myself. I have to be so full of humility that I can never be compared to this thing that I see and that
so true.
Has also harmed me in so many ways. But it's just working in another extreme. It's one of the great ways, goes for everybody, but it's one of the great ways that autistic people are also greatly sort of harmed and victimized by very egotistical people. And for narcissists, it's, what are autistics good at? They're good for masking and taking on the empathetic qualities of somebody else. So narcissistic people tend to gravitate towards that. So they get to have a mirror image of themselves, but one that they can kind of abuse if they so wish. But with egotistical people, if we see that, we're very rule-based and black and white. So, okay, that bad, so opposite must be good. But opposite is just bad towards us. Like, it's not really helping anything. It's just it falls into, honestly, self-hate is just another form of self-harm, just from a psychological perspective, when you're not allowing yourself to believe in things you can do, or trust yourself to follow through, or just be a functioning human being most of the time. You get stuck in those loops.
I think I felt like, and this just came up from what you're saying, so thank you, Mike, because this just popped in my brain, that I think that I was trying so very hard to be a sheep, because that's what the world told me you should be. You should get married, you should have kids, you should be partnered up with somebody, you should start a business, like you should go to college, you should, all these things that I should be doing. And so I was really trying to be a good sheep for a long time. And I was so angry and resentful and unhappy with this being a sheep, right? That I finally went, I don't want to be a sheep anymore. I want to be me, whatever that is, however ugly, beautiful, whatever. I just want to be that. I do not want to be over here, right? I cannot do this anymore. I won't survive. I won't want to survive if I'm going to live within this narrow space, and my sheep life goes through this narrow space. I just can't do it. So yay, I got out of that. Hallelujah. And now it's like, it's scary, it's daunting, it's interesting, but that's the best part for the neurodivergent mind. If it's interesting, we will stick with it. So sometimes it's like hacking yourself, like your own biohack of, I'm going to make me and doing good for me super interesting in the weirdest way possible. That would make a neurodivergent person go, oh, hell yeah, I'll do that. Because it's anything that, explosion, yeah, oh, ooh, anything that's going to distract us. So you have to kind of hack yourself. And I don't mean like, self-help guru. Those are great too. Those books are great about hacking yourself and whatever. But I mean, like, those are great informational things that you take some, and some of it you leave on the aside. Most of it is really, you, because you've been watching you struggle for how long? Like, what your gotchas are, what your shadow is, what your faults, where you're going to try to do something noble, and then your ego is going to come in, you. So be you, get into that and make it really interesting, the journey, so that your neurodivergent brain goes, I don't care about the squirrel over here anymore. I'm going to go over here and look at this. And this is how I create this great map to myself, which is the ultimate journey, right? Isn't that the ultimate journey? I have more compassion and love and care for the world than I ever have, because I do this for myself. Okay, I'm off my soapbox. Sorry. Whew.
No, it's self-awareness, right? It's all it comes down to, is being self-aware. And part of being self-aware, ironically, isn't like seeing yourself as the one and only, which I think many people kind of think that's how it's going to be. Like, oh, I'm so important. Part of being self-aware is also recognizing you're a dot on a big floating rock amongst a lot of other dots.
Teeny piece of grain of sand on the longest beach you've ever seen. Exactly.
And like, there's a lot of freedom in that too. There's a lot of, oh, I'm not actually important. But as I've said a couple times on this show, if everything is insignificant, then anything you decide to be significant can be. And that goes for anything in your life. Like, this is important to me because I want it to be. How I view myself is important to me because it's how I view myself. It doesn't make me bigger than anybody else. It goes back to what you said about being called like kind of anti-holistic. I'm sure people can listen to this show and think that I've definitely said some vaguely militant sounding things in regards to like being mad at holistics. But like, no, that doesn't come from a place, like, trust me, nobody wants to be quote unquote normal more than us most of the time. The problem, one of the reasons we're mad is because we wasted so much of our time trying to be, and it upsets us that we kind of don't get yes, sorry you tried to copy us so hard that you hurt yourself. And instead we still get like, no, you should definitely try to be like us. Like, like, you're not meeting us halfway here. Like, we're asking for very simple things that doesn't affect you negatively, doesn't will probably only help you in the long run, as you said. Like, that's not us being anti-allistic. That's just us going like, no, we're owed the same amount. Like, you know how you're being really defensive right now? Like, yeah, that's how we feel all the goddamn time.
Yes, exactly. Oh my God, it's the amount of time that I spent angry and not really like being able to figure out why I was so angry with all this therapy I've done. I don't know. It's really interesting to play around with energy because that is the thing for neurodivergent people. Your energy, the energy of the world, the energy of a space you're in, the energy of animals. I mean, all of this, it's all about that, right? Like, where is the volume and how is that hitting you? And so when you start removing things from your life, right? All of a sudden, you have less system noise. And what is it that plagues the neurodivergent person more than anything? System noise. Oh my God, it's insane. It's the fact that many rehabs and mental health institutions and so on are just, the halls are lined with neurodivergent people because we just need the volume to go down, like take it all the way down and then build it slowly back up to what you can tolerate. And tolerate to get by, but then also get out of the tolerating mode of, I don't have to tolerate this. So take ownership of, I don't have to build up stamina in order to deal with how the world is. That's that old system. I'm going to turn the volume down and I'm going to ratchet it up because there are times that I do need to be careful out there in the world, but I'm not going to let that control me. I'm not going to live in a space where I have to constantly contort myself in order to be accepted and understood. And since I don't always get that from out there, I'm going to damn sure make sure that that's going on inside of here with myself, because that has a ripple effect out into the world.
And once you understand energy, you will realize how important it is. And we can actually control our own energies, right? And elevate to a place where we are emitting love and empathy and just courage and creativity, all of that, and create boundaries so that the external energies don't affect us. And once you realize that, that's where it becomes magic. And
Absolutely. Yeah, suddenly you're like, well, I feel like I've been wandering around. Like my biological father, I know was autistic, has autism. Don't have a relationship with him, but he was my primary abuser. But I understand why, because he was autistic. And he also was a genius. He was a musical prodigy. I mean, any instrument. I don't care if it's, hey, we got a new instrument made out of a pair of scissors and a pen. He would master that and turn it into Chopin. I mean, he could play any instrument, right? And I just piano, all those things. And I noticed that what I did because of the abuse is I did the whole thing, Mike, you were talking about earlier about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And Chaya, you talked about that too, just of, I'm going to have nothing to do with creativity because this is what happened to me. So I just, at 12 years old, I went and shut my very lifeblood. I shut it down in order to fit in and to hide what had to be so horribly wrong with me, because how could I be a good person if this is what was done to me? It just, all that stuff, that goes on. And so the journey of sifting through all of that and then now going, oh my gosh, I just haven't had the right paintbrush. I have all this art and this creativity within me. I use my voice to let it out. And now I have other tools that weren't available to me then, just like my diagnosis wasn't available to me then. So I'm so grateful to have it now that I've gone through the stages of being angry at what wasn't, at what I didn't have, at how hard things were. And that's an important part of the journey, but I'm done with that now. And now I'm just like, I'm so excited and all this stuff that I get to do, and that I have my paintbrush now, which is technology. For me, my paintbrush has always been technology. And so I'm just excited that now I get to I'm 55. So however long I live, I'm going to squeeze the creativity out everywhere I can.
We have come here to create. And if we are not creating, it's going to show up in weird ways. And I truly believe it's what results in anxiety and depression when there's no outlet for that expression, and it's all bottled up inside with all the traumas and everything, but there's no release. And once we find that release that is interesting to us, not to some class that our parents
Right.
it has to resonate deeply with us, within our soul. And then you have that outlet, and then that's how the release happens. Just like our podcast or writing or technology, whatever, the tool can be anything. And this is where I love to reiterate the fact that creativity is not just art. It's not just music. It can be anything that's coming out of you, that's birthing from you. And we should all embrace it.
Right. Creating the network was me being creative. I mean, just so many things. Me getting into database design when I had no freaking clue what I was doing, and how I learned how to do it. Being a neurodivergent person, I just picked up on it. I understood the energy of software design. I know that sounds weird, but I really understood it from that place. And so it didn't really matter that technically I didn't know what the hell I was doing, because I could show up as a consultant and someone was like just ripping their hair out, and I would go stand behind them and go, well, show me how show me where you got to with the problem. And I literally would stand over them and be like, watching what they're doing. And that's how I learned how to fix their problem. I had no idea, but my brain can work that way. And that's great. Not, that's a gift. That's creative. That is like what you're saying, Chaya. That is a creative thing for me. So I found ways. I always go back to like Jurassic Park, life finds a way, about the dinosaurs. I love that because it's so true. Our spark, hence your podcast, is that creative spark. And we have to, it'll come out in like how you take care of your dog. It'll come out in, like you said, it'll eke out in weird ways. So you might as well just like embrace it so that you don't scare people.
I think, both of you mentioned once you realize you're insignificant, we are nothing. Nobody's going to notice us. our egos will start melting. I think we are afraid to be ourselves because somehow we think we are really important. That I mean, that's the old me. I'm just talking about why I kept myself small is because I felt people are going to judge me, right? And so I'd rather be small and fit in and not be noticed and keep all these thoughts to myself and even just release while I'm painting. But it really was not released in the right way. So this podcast, for instance, I just speak whatever I feel like. It's fine. It's totally fine. And yeah, we are insignificant, but really it's about what we leave behind, because we are all here for a certain amount of time. We're not going to live forever. So really, if we leave this planet in a better place, that's all it is. Really, we're not taking any money anywhere.
Yeah. And you know what's awesome about that is like, I think we try so hard, like we really try so hard that once you get the information you need that you needed to get, in the timeline that you're supposed to get it on, you can step into that being insignificant that used to feel like something awful. That was a statement about how bad or wrong you are. But it turns into, oh, that's not what that is about at all. It's really something to notice that sets you free to just create the way that you need to without the constraints, because you're not trying to fit it through a funnel that the world has told you this is the only way that you're allowed to be. So once you accept that insignificance as a badge of honor, not oh my God, I'm insignificant, that's awful, then it's like, oh, well, gosh, I can just be free now. I don't I don't even care if anybody listens to what I have to say or not, because I know that one person was helped by what I said, and that one person is me, right? So if it helps other people, that is like, oh my gosh, that is so awesome. But I don't have to have that. I don't need accolades. I don't need, and I thought I had to have all those things before, and they made me so very uncomfortable, being the marquee person on some event. And I don't really, I thought that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to want fame. You're supposed to want recognition. You're supposed to want all money, fancy car. You're supposed to want all this stuff that I never wanted anything to do with. None of that ever appealed to me. So the more I got close to it, it was just like, oh, but now I'm so glad I did all of what I've done, because I used my voice. I forced a creative outlet, and it helped me get to this place of deeply understanding how great it is to be insignificant.
And that's wonderful, because that's where I like to be. I love the fact that nothing matters, which people always take as like, oh, that's nihilistic. I've said it 1,000 times. Yeah. There's so much optimism in nihilism. And I don't think people quite understand that. Like, those two things don't go together, but like, no, but if nothing, it's great that like Stephen Hawking had a hypothesis that intelligent life was just an accidental byproduct of cell replication, that the universe is not actually born or designed for intelligent life. And people got very defensive about that idea. Of course, I loved that. Like, no, I think that's so cool. The idea that this is a complete accident. And maybe that's also a little bit me projecting, because I was kind of an accident, but but I think that's great. Like, look at everything, when everything's not horrible and on fire, what like humanity is actually able to do in conscious thought. Going back to creativity, that's the language of, Homo sapien. That's what we do that's different than other animals, is that we are able to actually utilize creativity in any specific form. As you said, it's not just creating a painting, creating film, blah, 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 writing, literature. Creativity falls under any real umbrella, and being able to use creativity to then enrich somebody else's life. I'm a movie buff, and there's so many films that speak to me very deeply. And I love the fact that that's something that was created and then helped me later on. And it's like people stretching through time in that way. The same thing with books and artwork, just if I could, I don't paint, but if I could paint a painting and it touched one person in some very deep way and affected them in a way that changed them, that gave them a bit of positivity in how they view themselves. Well, I think that's fulfilling a kind of purpose you could argue you're there for. I think we should ultimately be here for propping each other up. I don't think there is, not to say there is a point in being. I don't personally believe that, because there's no point, but you can make that. And you can make that being the overall purpose, is just making the world better for one other person before you exit it.
Agreed. And I love that you can, when you get to that place where you go, yes, it's wonderful at the thought of someone finding something that you've said or a piece of your art, and it's had a significant impact on their life. But it really makes me excited, and why I love podcasting, and I hated public speaking, all that energy and all that stuff on the aside. But what I love about the podcasting piece, or being a creator on YouTube or what have you, is that you do not know who you will or you won't touch, right? You just don't know. Well, you'll know if it's a jerk and they leave a crappy comment. But anyway, block, delete. But you just don't know. So that, to me, the vastness of just putting yourself out to the void and not knowing, because how could you know? I'm not someone that needs, this is where I look at, I've got some friends that are celebrities, right? Legit, celebrities. And we've had deep discussions with me saying, why is it so important for you to know who you've affected? I don't have that. Like, I don't need that. It's uncomfortable even for me to even know sometimes. While I'm thankful, and I love hearing from people that some way I helped them, but it still is always a little uncomfortable. What is that thing that makes you someone that needs to have that? And that's the difference between someone that does go and shine in celebrity world. Not that there's anything wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, it's a very different way of being in the world. And I don't put that way of being, needing to know that is not, I don't say that as a negative. I just know that for me, I don't need to, I like not knowing.
I think, yeah, me too, because it gives you more power. So you're not spending energy on who's watching, who's saying what, because that's energy spent, right? So you just hold that, bring back that energy to yourself and create from love and just put it out there. And it is going to work because you're putting love to the world, and it is going to multiply. It will spread, and you have to trust that law of universe, and it will do the magic. And you just have to allow for that magic to happen and not just micromanage every move. And yeah, we don't have to know, just do what you love and just put it out there. The right person will find it.
I always liked like absent-minded professors because I feel like that's my family. Like just like my friend, I just use one friend an example. He got his PhD when he was like 16 or something. He's a genius, right? And flies planes and writes code for Google. And he's one of those people. And what I love about him is like he literally walks around like he just pulled all of his clothes out of a hamper that have been in there for weeks, rumpled. He carries his platinum. I don't have these kinds of credit cards, but he has all the cards, right? And they're wrapped in a rubber band that he just shoves in a loose pocket. And when I invited him to come speak at an AI conference years ago, he came, but he was late because he had to go to Legoland first. And he just moves through his life in this way, doing what he can't stop his brain from doing. And that to me is so much more interesting than I am a celebrity and here I am. And, it just that I love those, that kind of person just fascinates me. So I think I tried to go the other way and I'm just too weird. And now I accept that and I love it. And now I'm just going to be happy in my unknown weirdness, but it's so known to me and a few other people dig it too. And I'm happy with that. Does that make sense?
Completely. So tell us about your love for technology and what are you doing in that space? I heard you mention AI, and so you've been involved with it many years ago. So share your experience and what you do with it.
I've always found it fascinating. And so I know that I did a lot of shows about this, and I met this friend through doing shows, and I've sold software that he created. And so it's always really interested me. It's never scared me. I don't care how many movies are out there. AI is going to take over the world. And, but I just laughed. I always laughed. I thought, well, what an interesting concept. Not true, but whatever. I always saw it as something in partnership with us because I always got it that, oh, AI is us. It's just, to me, I looked at it like, oh, I was searching for all these individual people, these specialists to help me and be on my show so that I could pick their brain about this specific aspect of mental health, right? Well, now I have all human brains at my fingertips to ask, and it never gets tired of my questions. Ever. I can go on and go down rabbit holes that, no one would want to go down, but I can. And it's always there to do that with me. And so to me, it is the greatest gift to humanity. Just absolutely. But we need to learn how to use it because right now we have this tool of every bit of our knowledge at our fingertips, or, in terms of the data that's out there. And yet we go on and we go, how do you make a peanut butter sandwich? You know what I mean? It's so funny. We're so rudimentary in our, many of us, not everybody, of course. But so I use it to extrapolate my brain and my personality and my gotchas. I built my own GPT, so it can really learn me And I set up the rules around it. Do not flood me with a bunch of psychobabble pop psychology. I hate that. I will not listen to a dang piece of instruction that you give me if you're just going to blow smoke right up my rear end. You have got to tell me the truth. Where do you see my patterns, unhealthy patterns, healthy patterns? What do I use it for that. And I also use it to talk about all the spiritual things and the soul work and all these other things that I am trying to understand. So I literally just pick up my phone and I pop up Chat GPT and I just figure out, do I want to talk to my own Chat GPT or do I want to talk to the main, I'm saying it all wrong, tech people, please don't crucify me. I said I like tech. I didn't say I would qualify as a techie, but I love that I can just blah and it helps formulate all my thoughts. It's actually helping me with having better boundaries with humans. It's helping me reorganize and restructure my brain because, yeah, I have ADHD. Yeah, I have autism. Okay. But I also have legions of trauma. And, those have done their magic, on my neural pathways. And this is me taking sovereignty over my brain, right? My body, because it's not biased. So the most important thing I've learned, probably end with this one, is for an autistic person, for a neurodivergent person, to be able to converse all of the ways that your wild, wonderful brain works and to converse freely about that with something that's going to give you human feedback, but there's no bias, there's no prejudice, there's no all of those things. For some, not every neurodivergent person feels what other people feel. I am someone who does, right? Like it just happens, especially if they touch me. Oh my God, direct download, and I need a week to process. But what's interesting is with this, I don't have, it's the absence of all the human drama. So I can think clearly. That's what it does for me.
I couldn't think of a better note, honestly. That's something I've felt very strongly. Like there's a lot of things I dislike about AI in regards to it being utilized for art creation and things like that, which is, as you said, the wrong thing that for some reason we are obsessed with focusing on. Like I'm not saying it is not useful for helping write emails, but it's odd that's immediately what we go to. Write a movie, write an email, like we have like this supercomputer at our fingertips, and that's what we're using it for. But for the neurodivergent, being able to cut out the noise and get the clear facts, because AI talks like us, it's able to do that detachment from information and give it to us straight, which is what we desperately have kind of needed from everybody in our lives. And it's weird that we've essentially found it in a computer that someone made that just talks like us, which also means they could have just gone to us at any point, probably just ask us for, how to make a peanut butter sandwich. And we could probably tell them a much better idea than however they're doing it. So to kind of wrap up things, what sort of direction do you see your network heading in?
Yeah, the answer is I really don't know. And I'm excited about that. What it sort of looks like right now in terms of the network is that the network right now is kind of an avatar. My show is an avatar. The network is whatever it is to each individual person that's a part of it or that listens to someone on the network. So I can't speak to that. But in terms of what it is for me and where I see it going, I see it only becoming more amazing because of this journey of exploration that I am on, and I'm its founder. So, things trickle out from the one who created something, right? So I see that as being good. I will be talking more about AI, and I'm also going to be doing things outside of the network where I don't use my name, where it's much more safe for me to be out as a creative. But that's also going to inform what I do here. So I kind of look at it like the network is where I meet the human world, right? And these shows meet the human world. And the other things I do are where I go into other worlds, but they're going to keep informing this over here. And I also see it as kind of a safe space that can live in the real world, right? It can live there and be respected because it does a lot of good, and really intelligent and empathetic people are here doing their thing. And I feel like for me, having an anchor in the real world is really important while I go and I fly. I don't think I would fly as far or as freely if I didn't have this anchor. And that feeds into me being a caretaker in my personal life. I always have been one. That is a role that a lot of neurodivergent people get into, but I can see how it has helped anchor me, because there were many times that I just did not want to be here. And the fact that I had someone else to take care of, someone else to be responsible for, kept me anchored here. And it's so important that I've stayed here because of the things I've learned. So in a big way of how weird my brain works, that's what I see the network as. It's my anchor to the world that allows me to go fly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfectly. And that's how I think Chaya and I feel about this show, honestly, in so many ways. It is our anchor. And how can our listeners find the Mental Health News Radio Network and connect with your work?
Well, you can type way too many words. You can type in Mental Health News Radio Network and you'll find us everywhere. You can just type in Mental Health News Radio and you'll find the network. And it's just really cool people like you guys. I mean, I'm always, especially since my diagnosis, the people that have come in this new space of knowing for myself, like you guys, I've been like, oh, my people. Oh my God. You know, more like every time it feels like my people. And then it's even more and even more and even more. So I would say if you resonate, if someone out there resonates with this, there's a lot of people that are having these kinds of conversations on the network. And it's really awesome to get their individual perspectives on it. So come look at the shows and see if any of them, you know, resonate. I mean, there's stuff about anxiety, about narcissistic abuse, about avoidant personality disorder, about substance abuse. I mean, anything you can think of is there. So, and everyone cares. You may not agree with how they care or how they state that they care or what their political or whatever beliefs are, but they care. And I think that's the common theme out there, is that we all really give a shit. Sorry if you have to edit that out.
It is a great network, and we are so happy to be part of it and getting the chance to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been wonderful. I can't wait to come on your show and continue this conversation. That's going to be really exciting. So everybody can look forward to that. And I will, of course, put all the links to the Mental Health News Radio Network into the show notes, which are, of course, always found at sparklaunchpodcast.com. And I want to once again thank you for joining. And I really cannot wait to dog barking. I really cannot wait to continue this conversation and continue our relationship and the relationship with the network and get to meet everybody else that's part of it.
Agreed.
Thank you so much, Kristin. It was a joy. We could speak for hours, but we have to end it. But it was lovely, just lovely. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you both. And thanks to your listeners for taking a listen to another weird person on their weird journey. And it's all about, you know, yay for the weirdos.
We're all beautiful weirdos. I speak for all of us and I say we will see you next time.